Thank you, Ashok. Thank you so much for joining us today. And for our audience, Ashok got placed in MathWorks as a part of EDG, Engineering Development Group. And Ashok is currently pursuing his master's in aerospace engineering at IIT Bombay. And prior to joining master's at IIT Bombay, he has done his bachelor's from Madras Institute of Technology in aerospace engineering itself. And right after his bachelor's, he joined master's program. So we will get to know about his placement experience, like of getting placed in MathWorks in detail. So yeah, thank you so much, Ashok, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for inviting me.
So could you please tell us a bit about the role for which you have been selected at MathWorks?
So the JAF is about the JAF titled is engineer for in the under the program of engineering development group, which is
Yeah.
the program under which MathWorks usually recruits engineers. So the role has basically three requirements or three responsibilities. One is a support to the customers who are using the tool. The other one would be contributing to the technical side of the tool as well. And thirdly, we will be interacting with the team during the program to recognize which team we
Okay.
would fit the best into. So
Right.
this is basically a program through which we'll be getting into.
So was this job role open for like the departments or the courses for which this job was open?
Okay, so the JAF had multiple streams, so
Okay.
but it was open for several departments as well.
Okay.
In the case of in my case, I was under the control theory stream. So
Okay.
in my case, Syscon and electricals, controls and computing, and aerospace dynamics and control would be the major competitors.
Okay, okay, sure. But it was open for bachelor's,
Yes, yes,
master's,
yes,
PhD, everyone.
yes, yes, yes. Bachelor's,
Okay.
dual degrees, masters.
And then there were various streams or tracks for which you will be selected. Means there were various tracks for the written test.
Yes, totally five tracks.
Okay, so we
Computer
will talk.
science, control
Yeah,
theory.
we will talk about that in a bit. So before applying for the JAF, was there any resume shortlisting or any CPI cutoff?
CPI cutoff, I think there was a 7 CPI cutoff was there. The
Okay.
CPI cutoff of
Okay.
7.
Yeah.
And resume shortlisting, I think it was a combination of resume as well as technical test, which gave us the shortlisting result. So
Okay.
how much was the percentage that we may not be.
Oh, okay, okay. But yeah, there was a explicit CPI cutoff of 7,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
those who were having a CPI more than 7, they were allowed to appear for the test.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So now we can talk a bit about the test. And as you mentioned that in the test there were various tracks. Can
Hmm.
you do you remember the tracks, the various tracks?
So one was computer science, the other one was control theory. I think
Okay,
VLSI had a track,
okay.
signal processing, and one more, one more in
Embedded
electrical
systems,
probably.
probably embedded systems
Yeah,
or something
embedded
like
like
that.
yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so those like who are applying for MathWorks, they had to select one of these tracks for the written
Yes,
test.
yes, they
Okay.
had.
So of course, I believe that since you are from dynamics and control specialization, you would have opted for control systems or
Control theory.
control
Yes.
theory. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So now could you please tell us a bit about the test, like the duration of the test or the various sections of the written test?
The written test consisted of two parts majorly. First, which they concentrated on. First was the C++. Second was our four-track controls. So the topics given under controls were classical theory, modern and nonlinear, but majority of the weightage was in classical control theory. And similarly in in C++ as well, the major concentration was in OOPS, object-oriented programming.
Yeah.
And the language to program, we had two coding questions. So the choice of language was either C, C++, Java, or JavaScript. We had to choose
Okay.
one among them. And as a
Yeah.
bonus section, we had MATLAB or Python as well.
Okay. Okay.
So in the programming languages, they were basically testing our knowledge in the syntax or the concepts in programming with some
Mhm.
output or debugging based questions, and those two coding questions, which were of easy difficulty for non-computer science streams. For
Okay.
computer science, it was of medium difficulty.
So like as you mentioned that there were questions on like output based question, debugging based questions, and then there were two coding questions where you have to write the full code.
Hmm.
Okay, sure. And then you also had questions on your control systems, like control systems part you also had, and you mentioned that there was main focus on classical control, classical control.
Hmm.
So what was the total duration of the test? The duration of the test?
1.5 hours if I'm right.
Okay, means 90 minutes approximately
Yeah,
was the
90 minutes.
duration.
Yeah, 1.5 hours.
90
Yes.
minutes. Okay, so you have to finish all these sections in 90 minutes, and it was a
Yes.
single exam, like no break in
Hmm.
between. You have to finish it in one go.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay. So we can talk a bit about the preparation strategy. Like given that you come from aerospace background, so how did you prepare for the programming? And as you mentioned that they were checking C, C++, Java, means you have to write the
Hmm.
code in any of these languages. So you have to be good in any of these languages. So how did you prepare for programming? Programming sections to crack the test.
Well, among the four choices that they had given, the one that was still intact for me was C++.
Okay.
So first, since it has been a long time, since 12th is when I last used C++. So I had to
Oh,
first recollect everything.
yeah.
Then I started with some programming questions, lead code. I used lead code
Okay.
to solve some common, to 75 programming interview questions or 150 questions would be there. So we used to
Okay.
solve them both in Python as well as C++, just so for other companies also we could prepare.
Okay. Okay.
Then for the output based questions, we'll get frequently asked questions or tricky output questions as well on Google, Geeks for Geeks, etc. They could use
Okay.
different sites,
Yeah.
and in such sites, we were trying to solve questions, and the special cases is what we have to be careful about. So
Okay.
such questions we went through on internet only. Then
Okay.
apart from that, the basic mm, a handbook would be there. We can get some handbooks for C++ and internet, and those
Okay.
handbooks we
Okay.
used to go through the
Okay.
basics.
Yeah.
That was for the most part in C++.
Okay. Means you refer to lead code and gigs
Hmm.
for gigs, and I believe that you mentioned that you had studied C like programming in your class 12th
Yeah.
class 12th boards.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, it had been a while, so you
Quite a
had to
while.
revise the concept first, and
Yes.
then of course, and then you started studying for the placements at IIT Bombay. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I believe that gigs for gigs, like yeah, it's really a very good
Yes.
platform.
Yes.
Of course, lead code is also there, but yeah, these are the resources which one can leverage while preparing for their placements. So like yeah, we talked about the written test, and do you remember was there any negative marking in the written test? Any negative marking?
I don't think we had negative in MathWorks.
Okay, okay. So there was no negative marking. And
No.
coming to the control systems part, like so even though you're specialized in dynamics and control, but like how did you practice the control systems question for the placements?
Okay, we have electricals, controls, and computing stream gate questions.
Oh,
So we
okay,
use
okay,
those mostly.
okay,
And some actually controls questions were actually simple enough. So that if you had a basic knowledge of different tools, frequency domain tools, time domain responses, you could answer it. So and the gate questions were more than sufficient, I would say.
okay, okay. Okay, sure. Yeah, so just to summarize, in the test, there were various sections. One was about writing two codes in C, C++, Java, JavaScript in
Hmm.
any of these languages. Then there were some output based, some debugging based MCQs questions.
Hmm.
And then again, there were some MCQs questions on control systems. And there
Yes.
was a bonus section as well on MATLAB and Python. So this was about the test, right? And of
Hmm.
course, you appeared for the test. And this was totally online test, correct? Online test.
Yes. Yes. Online.
Online test. Okay. And you appeared for the test, you cracked it, and then you got shortlisted for the interview.
Hmm.
Okay. So now coming to the interview, like, can you please walk us through the various rounds of the interview? Like, yeah.
So in general, there would be four: group discussion, technical, manager, and HR round. But in our
Okay.
case, group discussion did not happen, and
Okay.
the other rounds they can happen in any order. In my case, I
Okay.
had first the technical round,
Okay.
then the HR, then the manager,
Yeah.
and the interview process was completely online.
Okay.
So
It's
the
online.
first
Okay.
interview,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So the first interviewer would be interviewing me, and if I'm selected, the next interviewer would enter the meet. That is how it proceeded.
Yeah.
So,
So means there was 3 rounds. Like you
hmm,
appeared, like you had 3 rounds: technical, managerial plus HR,
it's
and it can be in any order. But yeah, you had technical, managerial followed by HR round. Okay, I think you.
HR and then manager.
Okay, okay, yeah, you had. Okay, sure. Yeah. So now, what happened in the technical round? Like, what was the focus of that round? Yeah.
In the technical round, the major concern was about C++. So first we started off, but they shared a HackerRank link. Then all the coding questions which they asked were simple enough, few lines, 4 or 5 line type questions, like in pointer or class type questions. And if we use them in combination, there will be some special cases. So those were the areas they were concentrating on, those special cases. Then, so usually there will be a question, then a follow up of it, and it'll keep going. Our discussion kept going.
Yeah.
Mm. So after the coding questions were done, like in the hacker rank, I had some theoretical concept-wise questions in C++ as well, which was later followed by some basic questions on classical theory and some basic concepts in modern control theory as
Okay. Okay. So in programming, like the level of the questions, do you remember like the topics which they were asking in the interview? Like, yeah.
well. So we had some questions in pointers and class structure as well. And among the concept-wise questions, some in data structure, memory allocation, inheritance. Majorly, I think some
Okay.
string and
Okay.
character also.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
basically.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. And then there were questions on the control systems, like theory part as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and any questions on your resume? Any specific questions on your resume?
No, to my knowledge, I don't
Okay.
think I was asked anything from the rest.
Okay. Okay. So at any point of time, like, do you feel that there were some questions which you had not studied in programming or technical anything? So at
Mhm.
any point of time, do you feel something you would have done better or you would have prepared in a better way?
Well, in some questions, in the first question, I usually had given the wrong answer. Then in the follow-up, after listening to the follow-up question, I would have realized the previous answer was actually wrong, so I corrected it. So maybe if I had given the right answer in the first case itself, it would have been better. Secondly, I think one or two topics in C++, which I wasn't aware of much. So like
Okay.
one was union, I think, and some more also. So there were some areas where I was unable to answer as well. So those
Okay.
areas I may could have done better.
Sure. So, like, this was about technical round of the
Mhm.
interview. So,
Hmm.
just to summarize, that there were questions on programming part again, and the main
Hmm.
focus was on the programming part in C++. And then there were questions on control systems since you had opted for control systems track while applying for this role.
Hmm.
Okay. And yeah, so yeah, of course. And what was the time? Like, how much did it last? The interview, the technical round?
So the actual allotted time is 1 hour, if I'm right, but
Okay.
I think it prolonged a little longer.
And then you had your which round of interview? After that, you got shortlisted for the next round. Then what happened in the next rounds? Yeah.
After that, I had the HR round. Yeah, in HR round, we started with a normal conversation about me, my family, etc. Then we moved on into a lot of the questions were oriented towards teamwork and how I would work on a team or how I would respond to difficult situations where I'm not able to meet the deadline or I'm having a problem with a team member. Such situations, special situations. And obvious question, why not PhD was there.
Okay.
Then
Okay. Yeah.
uh, So for me, the HR and managerial questions were pretty relatable. So
Okay.
the major concern was the team. How will you perform in a team? Or if you have
Okay.
led a team before in such a situation, how did you respond? Was that question? Okay. And there was also the question of place of preference, either Bangalore or Hyderabad. That was
Okay.
also there.
Okay.
And
Okay.
why?
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So in HR round, you were asked these questions.
Hmm.
So it lasted for around half an hour, 20 minutes.
20, it should have been half an hour, but since our technical round prolonged for a little longer, so
Okay.
20 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Sure. Okay. So like you mentioned that you were asked that why don't you want to go for a PhD?
Okay.
Okay, so what was your like answer, or how should one answer? Because given that this question is now common
Hmm.
and people are generally asked these questions, so how should one answer this question?
So depending on their interest, they might be completely not interested in a PhD, like in my case. So I directly
Okay.
told I'm not interested. Then the second case could be I'm still open to it. I might take it up in the future. That kind of
Okay.
answer might be there. So as of now, I'm not having any plans about it. I want to move into the industry and apply my skills, get some more knowledge, improve it, and work for the betterment of the company. Then probably if the organization wants me to pursue a PhD, then I'll consider it as well.
Uh, yeah. 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 So I think one can frame their answer based on any of these lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Hmm.
also interesting that if the organization wants me to pursue a PhD, I am open for it. That is also a very convincing answer. Yeah. Yeah. So any tricky question in this round, in HR round, any tricky question, like apart from this PhD thing?
Have you ever not been able to meet a deadline? So we were so
Okay.
when you were so close to meet the deadline and you know you can't meet it. So what did you do at that point of
Oh,
time? Was one of the
okay.
questions.
Okay.
There one other also. So yeah, so we have multiple tasks, each of the same priority, but the deadline is also too close. So what would
Yeah.
you do with these tasks? So these two were the tricky questions, I remember.
Yeah. And then you had your managerial round of interview.
Managed round of it. Yes.
Yeah, managerial round. Okay. So what was like the questions being asked in that round of interview in the managerial round?
So I had some similar questions from HR, but in addition to that, I had questions on EDG program,
Okay.
whether I'm aware of it and what I expect out of it, etc. Then
Yeah.
the other part was whether I understand the need for taking the customer's perspective.
Okay.
So these two were the additional concerns he had raised, in
Okay.
addition to the ones in HR.
Okay. So like did you have a PPT before the placement process? PPT?
Yeah,
Pre-placement talks?
right before applying the for the Java.
Oh, okay. 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 So in the PPT, like things would have been explained about the
Yeah,
program,
about the
about the expectations, and so on. Okay.
hmm,
Okay. Yeah, but I think yeah, it's always advisable that you should read a bit about the program for which you are going to be interviewed. Like
yes,
so that gives you a better like like to handle those questions in a better way. Because if you
hmm,
know about the requirement, you can frame your answers in a more formal way. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So how much the time for this managerial round of interview? 30 minutes.
Again, yeah, it is again scheduled for 30. We went for 28.
Okay. Okay. So and all of these rounds were in online mode only.
Yeah,
In
online mode.
online. Okay. In
Hmm.
online mode only. Yeah. So I believe that there were like as we discussed that there were three rounds: technical, managerial, and
And
HR.
HR.
And 1 hour, and the technical round was for 1 hour approximately, and then the other two rounds of 30 minutes each
30 then.
approximately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And in the technical round of interview, the main focus was on the programming, and followed by the track, like the control systems track in your case, which you have opted
Yes.
while applying for the role. Okay. So so like I think we are done with the placement process of MathWorks, like which you follow it. So I have
Yeah.
one question, as in key,
Okay.
like you are from aerospace engineering department, and you cracked a software test, you appeared for the test, you cracked each and everything. So how should one prepare for these roles? Because like a lot of people from mechanical background, aerospace background, they want to get into these roles or similar roles. So how should they prepare for these roles? What is your advice for them?
So, firstly, the expectation wise, for other streams which are non-computer science streams, the expectation for C++ related knowledge is lower. It's not that
Yeah.
high as computer. So, first thing is if they're aware of any of these languages, Java, C, or C++, it is fine. They can start about, let's say, few weeks also they'll be able to manage. But in case they don't know any of these languages, then they would have to start prior, like 2 months at least,
Yes.
because getting a hand of all the concepts in C, C++ will take a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
So that they may have to start early in case they are not aware of these languages. But once they are aware of either C or C++, then rest will fall into place.
And how
Then they
about
can, yeah.
like let's suppose that the control system thing. Like
Yeah.
I believe that this was new to you. Like normally aerospace guys, they do not study about control systems in their bachelor's. It's not in their syllabus, right? So how
It,
should one prepare for these things?
okay, in my case, we had an elective in our bachelor's, which was
Oh,
fundamentals
okay.
of control engineering.
Oh,
So that is one of the reasons I moved into
control
guidance
systems.
and yeah, in for
Okay.
masters.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So in masters also, once you enter the first semester, only the first semester is going to be completely different, even if they didn't have elective in bachelor.
Right. Right.
But the expectation was also only classical control theory, so they should be able to cope up with it. It
Okay.
shouldn't be that hard, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, got it. Yeah, definitely. These things will be helpful for the upcoming students because sometimes people don't know how to start with and how should they prepare. So they do not have any, like starting point actually. So now at least they
Hmm.
would have something to start with. And I believe that your experience will motivate others and will help them understand the expectations of this role at MathWorks or or some similar roles at other companies as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Ashok,
Thank you.
for sharing your experience with us. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you.